All right, this Saturday we have, well, the event name is The Last Dance, and it if only it was, it's not, but if only it was, but it is The Last Dance in the UK for Derek Chisora. Derek Chisora brings to the ring a professional record. This is his 49th professional fight. 35 wins with 23 knockouts, with 13 losses and 4 defeats. Derek Chisora is, whether you love him or hate him, he's a fighter that you can't not admire. 35 wins against 13 defeats is, it's not the record of a fighter who would have the wealth, and Derek Chisora is a multi-millionaire, who would have the wealth, who would still have the drawing power that Chisora has, who can still demand decent purses, who is still always on people's minds when it comes to, an entertaining fight or, a good undercard. You see what I mean? He is the definition of a man who is not remotely defined by his losses. He doesn't let those defeats define him. And he's always, even against Tyson Fury in the trilogy fight that no one asked for, mind you, I'm just going to chuck that in there. He was still swinging. He was still trying. He was still doing his best in there. He's never been one to lie down for anyone. So Derek Chisora, for me, he is he really is an absolute trooper. And this is, obviously last weekend, we kind of kicked off the month of February. The month of February is a massive month for boxing, and have a look there on screen. At the end of this month, the 22nd of February, alright, this is one of the fights, right? Derek Chisora versus Otto Wallin. But 22nd of February, we have the fight card of the century. People, it's going to be an epic unification, undisputed light heavyweight rematch between Beterviev and Bivol, and a world heavyweight title fight between Daniel Dubois versus Joseph Parker, with belts on the line all night. People, that's going to be live on Dazn. Chisora versus Otto Wallin is also going to be live on Dazn in the US. The link will be in the description. If you click it, no subscription required to buy The Last Crescendo pay-per-view. No subscription required. And also, this evening, just before I actually hopped on here to record, I went and I did about an hour on iBoxing Hub's channel. I talked about just various things in the world of boxing: Crawford, Canelo, my thoughts on Ben Eubank, and just various topics around the sport of boxing. So if you want to watch this video first, please, but if you want to watch something thereafter as well, a bit of a kind of midweek roundup, I recommend you go over there. I'll have the Dazn link pinned in the description. I will have the link to their channel in the comments. So let's follow up and talk more about War Chisora. 41 years old. It's really crazy. Chisora is only 41. And I say only 41. In terms of boxing age, he's got to be 101. But it seems like he's been around for years and years and years. And, when you look at his resume, as I said, it's not all wins. There's a lot of red there. But Joe Joyce, win. Gerald Washington, win. Tyson Fury, loss. Kubrat Pulev, win. Joseph Parker, Alexander Usyk. He lost all the 3 fights. Some people feel that he should have beaten Joseph Parker in the first fight. Many people feel that he gave Alexander Usyk one of his most competitive fights at heavyweight. Certainly Usyk was shell-shocked early on. David Price, Arthur Spilka, Senad Gashi, Dylan White, Carlos Takam, Ajay Kabayel, who's become a bit of a dark horse, and that loss, it was a majority decision loss, hasn't actually looked too bad. Dylan White, Pulev, who else? Tyson Fury, Kevin Johnson, Malik Scott, David Hay, Vitaly Klitschko, Robert Helenius, Tyson Fury, Sam Sexton. When Derek Chisora, it's all said and done, I'll have to do a career review, because his career, it's not all wins. But as I said, it's phenomenal to think that he is still somewhat relevant, really. And we're all going to be tuning in on Saturday night. I've no doubt about that. We might even, if I can find a decent method to watch said fight, I'll even consider doing a live watch along. Although it might not be the easiest per se. We'll wait and see on that one. But you see what I mean? People are still interested. And when I look at the card as a whole, it's lost a bit of zest. We were meant to have Willie Hutchinson versus Zach Parker as the co-main. That's not happening. Willie Hutchins pulled out. I think Zach Parker's completely off the card now. Mason Abdullah, who is a very good fighter, he's in there against Zach Miller. Jack Rafferty is in there, who is a decent fighter. Nathan Heaney. This is his first fight since, isn't it? Yes, first fight since that knockout loss to Brad Pauls, which was an epic fight. It was a really, really epic fight. It was an amazing fight, really. I think that was their rematch. So it's not a terrible undercard by no stretch of the imagination. It really isn't. So that is the card as a whole. But we got to talk about this fight. We got to talk about this fight, Chisora versus Otto Wallin. Originally, when this fight was announced, they were saying it was going. Or sorry, when it was talked about, this card, I should really be saying, it was announced it was going to be, or not announced, it was speculated it was going to be Chisora versus Jarrell Miller. Now, stylistically, I really like that fight. I think that fight would have been epic. It would have been a high volume output over 10 rounds. Apparently, this is going to be a 10 rounder, and it would have been entertaining. Otto Wallin is like the antithesis of Jarrell Miller in every way, personality and everything. Otto Wallin he's a boxer. He fights out of the southpaw stance. He is a bit of a mover, although he's certainly not an Alexander Usyk type mover, not even close. He's an awkward night's work. Ask Tyson Fury, because that really is Otto Wallin's claim to fame, that he was competitive. He cut Tyson Fury legitimately in their fight, and a lot of people, it really surprises me that they say, oh well, Fury had a really, he nearly lost the fight. Well, he nearly lost in what sense? As in, could have been stopped on cuts? Yeah. Nowhere near losing that fight on the scorecards. Yeah, Wallin had success, but he was nowhere near winning that fight. No way. Tyson Fury legitimately won it, and since then he didn't push on. He fought Dominic Brazil, a durable guy, a tough guy, went the distance with him. Then he kind of floundered in absolute obscurity for a couple of years. He fought Murat Gassiev, former unified cruiserweight champion. It was a terrible fight. It was an awful fight. Gassiev looked shot to bits. Gassiev, I don't even think is 30 yet, or if he is, he's only about 30 years old. He's not even an old. He looked shot to bits in that fight. He's never even taken that much punishment, Gassiev, which is even more bizarre. But he looked shot to bits in that fight. Wallin didn't look particularly good either. And then off the back of that fight, he went straight in. It was only 3 months removed into the AJ fight, and he looked even worse. He looked like he put weight on, not good weight, and he got beaten the crap out of and quit in 5 rounds. So he's not coming into this fight off the back of tremendous form, to say the least. And again, judging by how he looked against Murat Gassiev, I think Otto Wallin has slowed down a good bit. Maybe we're seeing his true level. Maybe he rose to that Fury fight, but that was a once off because he hasn't looked near as impressive. He looked good in the Fury fight. That was nearly 6 years ago, but he didn't look, jaw-droppingly good. I thought there might be some talent there, but he's not really showing it. And again, Anthony Joshua, 2 fights later, was absolutely annihilated, completely ran through by Daniel Dubois. So what are we dealing with here with Otto Wallin? Having said that, though, I think Wallin is going to move. He's going to be, I don't want to say negative, it's probably the wrong word, but well, yeah. It just depends how can Chisora pin him down. Otto Wallin's movement is not bad. It's not amazing, but it's not bad. He seems to have somewhat respectable power. I'm not going to say he's definitely not a big puncher, but he's respectable power there. But Chisora is the kind of guy where he will look to swarm you. He'll look to get in under your shots. He'll look to back you up again the ropes. He's not as good as doing it now, and he's not as relentless now as he was a couple of years ago. When I think to the last southpaw he faced, it would have been Alexander Usyk. It would have been Alexander Usyk. And early on in that fight, he was able to pin Alexander Usyk up again the ropes. Now, if he's able to do that to Alexander Usyk, granted it was a long time ago, but nevertheless, he should be able to pin somebody like an Otto Wallin up. He was able to do it to David Price. Artur Szpilka, a southpaw, very poor man, Alexander Usyk, but he was able, look what he did to Artur Szpilka, knocked him out brutally. Devastating knockout in 2 rounds. If he can do something like, but you got to bear in mind, a younger Chisora, fresher Chisora. If he can do something like that, or even akin to that, he's going to have success. Chisora not really noted as being a devastating puncher, although he did drop Joe Joyce in his last fight. People like Derek Chisora, Dave Allen have been very praising of Chisora's punching power, and many have said that the power is real. I think Dave Allen coined it best. It's like, it's coming, So you have a chance to kind of, get ready, tense, try and block it. You still feel it, but you know it's coming, rather than, a sudden, where the hell was that arm on the floor? So Chisora definitely has punching power there. It's a case of, can he maintain that pace? He couldn't do it against Gerald Washington. That was a very competitive fight. He couldn't really do it against Joe Joyce. The knockdown really saved them in that fight. But saying that, Joe Joyce is the kind of guy who'll come at you. Likewise Chisora, likewise Jarrell Miller, if he'd have been in there. Otto is not going to do that. He's a naturally safety, cautious kind of fighter. But you get the impression with Otto, it's the way he went into that AJ fight. It really was an eye-opener to me, the kind of mentality you're dealing with here, because you don't need me to tell you, he's not really much of a thinker. He went into that AJ fight with the mindset of, AJ is mentally shot, so that way I'm going to win. Okay, how are you going to exploit that? He's mentally shot, but how are you going to exploit that? What are you going to do? What are you going to bring to the table to remind him? Are you going to hit him really, really hard early on? No. Are you going to put pressure on him? No. Are you going to look to counter and, get your jab going? No. You can't just go into a fight and say, oh, he's mentally shot. Okay, and how do you plan on exploiting that? Oh, well, he's mentally shot. Oh, that's brilliant. Yeah. So you're just going to look at him and then he's going to be quivering, will he? Yeah, really? Brilliant. So, with Otto, his game plan might be, okay, I'm going to stay away, but what happens when Chisora catches up with him? How good are those whiskers? He was hurt several times by Anthony Joshua, but he never went down. Now, if AJ had loaded up on some of the shots like he did against Francis Ngannou, and even some of the shots he loaded up with against Dubois, they missed, but he loaded up, maybe he could have done something. Maybe he could have dropped Otto. I don't know. I suspect Eric Chisora may be able to get to Otto, but it's more Chisora's gas tank I'm worried about. I've seen him slow down quite significantly and dramatically and be more a stationary target and more open for shots. Now again, Valina is more of a cautious fighter than Chisora. He's not going to do a Joe Joyce and start trying to steamroll. He's not a juggernaut like that, but I still think he'll be cute enough to win this fight. Having said that, it's over 10 rounds. Chisora's the house fighter. He's the darling. It's his last fight in the UK. Frank Warren has, he's arguably, in my opinion, he is the biggest promoter in the UK, and he's backing Derek Chisora. They won't want Chisora to go out with a whimper. So I am reluctant to pick out of Valine. If all things were fair, I'd say Valine will probably just edge this just from a stylistic point of view. I don't think that style will really benefit Chisora or play into his strengths, I should really be saying. But I think he'll do enough to pick up 5 rounds with maybe an extra generous round chucked in there and probably win this fight 6 rounds to 4. I reckon. That's what I reckon. So my pick is Chisora on points. He could very well win legitimately. He could shock us and knock Otto out or certainly stop him. I don't think Valine will stop Chisora. I certainly hope he doesn't. Chisora's not sounding the best lately. But I think Otto probably should win, but I don't think he'll get the nod. And I've said that since the get-go. I'm favouring Chisora to win this fight, maybe on a close but somewhat dubious points decision. Let me know your thoughts in said comment section below. I hope you enjoyed the video, people. Smash the like button if you could. Hit subscribe, of course, as always, if you haven't already. And until next time, people, I'll leave it there. Peace.